Fish on First has partnered with About the Fans to launch a merchandise collection. Rep the FOF logo in more Marlins-inspired apparel. Find it all at aboutthefans.com. Enter coupon code FOF10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. FOF10 for a 10% discount.
This is Griffin Conan.
This is Xavier Edwards.
This is Liam Hicks.
This is Dave Myers, and you're watching Fish on First live.
Fish on First live, leading you into the weekends, presented by About the Fans. As usual, before every single Marlins series, we have a new live stream for you. I am Eli Sussman. Be sure to support us in the many ways you can by going to fishonfirst.com, become a super sub, but also by checking out our merch collection at aboutthefans.com. You need to remember to plug the stuff more often, like this t-shirt right here. You can get it. Save 10% with FOF10 at checkout when you enter that code. Save some money, support what we do, and get it at a discount. Joined by Alex Carver, as I often am, and we have a lot of farm system stuff to get to. Also doing a home and home with Jeremiah Geiger of Locked On Marlins. You heard me on his show maybe less than 24 hours ago, but a whole lot of new material to get into now that I'm in the host seat, and that even in the last 24 hours, there's been new stuff to touch on. Thank you for stopping by, Jeremiah.
Of course. It's always great to hop on and talk some baseball.
And there was a big series that we're coming off of, both figuratively and literally, a 4-game set against the Phillies that ultimately played out, I guess, the way that a lot of people may have expected, and that the Marlins lose 3 out of 4. Most people that are sending in predictions for us prior to that stream had it right. But it was, overall, Jeremiah, it was a really closely contested series. If you look at the run differential, I think the Phillies only outscored the Marlins by 1. The most comfortable victory was that Marlins won against Phillies bullpen that blew up in the middle game. But before we get into a couple individual guys, just the overview of the series, because this was an important test. And even though the result is kind of unsatisfying, it was surprisingly competitive between these two teams.
Yeah, the way I kind of look at it is a missed opportunity, because especially in those final 2 games, I really felt like the Marlins could have won both of them. That third one, the 9th inning rally, came up just short. I kind of stood up out of my chair when Nick Fortes hit that drive to right. And of all the defenders, Nick Castellanos makes an incredible play at the wall to rob him of at least tying the game. And then that final game of the series, we'll get into it, but Edward Cabrera rolling, they're shutting out the Phillies, and then it just slips away and with 2 innings. But overall, I really like that second game with the offense at least showing some life. I just wish they do it consistently, because they immediately crash back down to earth after that.
That has been the story the last few weeks with this offense, where occasionally, maybe once a week, once every 10 days, they pop off, and then every other game, it's 2 runs, 3 runs, 2 runs, 1 run, yada, 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 yada. I think we have Carver going in and out here, but if he's with us here at the right time, we got to see the first Marlins appearance from Adam Mazur. We were waiting for him. He'd been performing well in Jacksonville this year. Pretty awkward. He comes in, makes like a spot start, and then immediately goes back down. 1 bad inning for Mazur in there, but ends up getting into the 6th inning, which is quite an achievement for Marlins pitchers this year. So some good, some bad overall. Carver, in terms of what you were expecting from him, what he has to work on, what do you have to say about what we saw from our guy, I think number 7 on our prospects list coming up and pitching in for this rotation?
I think pretty good, honestly, returning to the major leagues. He had previously made his debut with the Padres, so his clock's already started. So I think this made sense to call this guy up now when you have a clear empty spots in your rotation. I think this was a clear spot for Mazur, and I'm glad that he got it. Fastball command, good. I think that's been his work in progress a bit lately. I think fastball command pretty damn good in this outing. As you said, he let 4th inning. It got away a little bit. He kind of, I think it kind of compounded on him a little bit, maybe a little bit of nerves in there as well. Pitching against a decent and pretty damn good lineup, I would say. But no, fastball command, I think, looked really good other than the 1 long inning. He held his own. He got around an error in 1 inning, so didn't really let the lights bother him too much other than that 1 inning. So I think that getting sent down sucks, because I thought that he could have stuck around a lot longer than this. I think that he deserves to stick around longer than this, going, as you said, into the 6th inning. And of course, yeah, he allowed 4 runs, so it's not a quality start, but one of the longer starts by a Marlins pitcher this season. We, of course, know with the removal of Edward, that a Marlins starter still this season hasn't gone 7 innings, and we're well through the first half. So that's, I think, a testament to him and his ability to come back in a first start. But I think kind of a mind, I don't want to say that, a mind screw, I'll put it nicely, to him to go that long into an outing and do pretty well against a decent team, a division rival, get around some things that were not his fault, and then he immediately gets optioned. I think sucks. So a good time to call him up. I think as worse of a time to send him down. I would have liked to see this guy stick around a bit longer.
In the meantime, I think it was, we'll get into it a little bit with tonight's starter, Jansen Junk, making his first start with the Marlins this year. I think it was just a choice between those two. And Junk has been doing well in that long man role, but now getting elevated to the rotation. And other than that, they had an option to maybe do a temporary 6-man thing now that we're entering a stretch with limited off days. So yeah, you can make the case either way. We'll get into that a little bit more.
Or put Junk in the bullpen. Like I mean, Junk, right, his whole career has not been a starter. Most of his career has not been a starter. Yeah, he's filled the gap well for the Marlins because he had to as a starter. Last time he went out, he was a starter. But I don't think that Jansen Junk, as good as he's been this season, a possible all-star. We can get to that conversation as well, maybe in this episode. But I don't think that what Junk has done should dissuade you from the future value that you can get from Adam Mazur and the ability for him to start contributing and building contributing to that value and building his confidence now when there's a clear spot for him. So I think the option is a mistake. I didn't agree with it at all, but we saw a good showing from Adam, and I hope that he doesn't take the option too poorly.
Yeah. Speaking of things you didn't agree with, and that I don't think anybody agreed with, was the way that Edward Cabrera was handled last night. One of the, as solid as Mazur was, this was on a different level. Carrying a shutout into the 7th inning against that Phillies lineup, having a lead that he was holding on to at the moment. It was the Marlins up 1-0 in the 7th inning of that start. A runner gets on. I know Jeremiah spoke about this in length on his pod. We'll get a kind of a snippet from him as we get deeper into this move, and not just this individual decision, but it being kind of a microcosm of how this Marlins team handles pitching and starting pitching and just in-game decisions overall. Yeah, so wherever you want to start with this one, Jeremiah, when it comes to Eddie, he was this has been part of a trend of him pitching pretty well over an extended stretch in a way that he really has not done his whole big league career to this point. And this performance, as effective as he's been all season long, even by that standard, and yet taken out with a lead, the bullpen blows the lead. He ends up having to settle for a no decision. Yeah, well, just to, I guess, start really simply, you probably would have left him in a little bit longer, right?
Absolutely. I would have left him in for the entire 7th inning. Like the issue I had, like the pitch count aside, and it was at 82, it's very manageable. It's that you bring in a left-hander to face Kepler when Cabrera has reverse splits against left-handers, number one, and Cade Gibson isn't, he's a rookie. He's made a handful of appearances in the major leagues. You're not bringing in Josh Hader to strike out a left-handed batter. That's not how this works. The Marlins don't have a true weapon from the left-handed side out of the bullpen. And then the second part of it, he gave up 1 base hit all game until that 7th. It's an infield single to the third base side. It wasn't a hard hit ball. It was an infield single. Then you come back and strike Castellanos. Let the dude compete. I mean, post game, you guys were on it. Cabrera is saying, I wanted to be out there. I'm not the boss. That's McCullough. I mean, he wants to be out there. He's a competitor who's in the middle of the best stretch of consistent pitching he's ever had in his major league career. At what point are we going to let this guy compete, or any of the pitchers compete? Because right now they're passive. Clayton McCullough and the whole organization is demonstrating clear passiveness. There's no aggression. There's no fire or drive when it comes to leadership right now.
On a number of levels, this one frustrated me. Any way you slice it, the fact that taking him out, I think in one of the main points is, as you mentioned, it's all about the alternatives. And in this case, this is a Marlins bullpen that I don't think has ever been good over an extended stretch this year. It's been fine, but not one that you would have a whole lot of trust in, getting 2 2/3 scoreless innings anyway. And with Cade Gibson, as effective as he's been, not somebody that, even when he's been effective, not somebody that you can trust to get swing and miss. When Clayton spoke post game, he pointed out that it was maybe a little unlucky that Kepler hit a soft grounder that if it goes to a different spot, it's probably an easy out. But the point is that's what you get when you bring in somebody with lesser pure stuff than what Edward has. The fact that it holds him back from an opportunity to prove himself and to grow. This is clearly something that the only way to justify it is that this is a decision that was made even before the game. This was made mapping things out the way that the Marlins do it. And I think a lot of teams increasingly do this, where they plan for how many times through a lineup and which particular hitters you're comfortable matching up with, and then looking into what the alternatives are. This is what, just given the timing and how he was pitching at the time of being yanked and where his pitch count was at the time of being removed as well. The only justification is they didn't trust him to face that particular hitter, Max Kepler, a third time, and they wanted to go with an alternative. At the same time, if you have that, when somebody is performing in a way that I think had to be even better than they could have hoped for, that would seem to be the opportunity to just manage based on what's happening in front of you and give him an opportunity to continue to shove the way that he had been throughout that entire start. Instead, it's just, you wonder what if you don't get to see him kind of change that perception of himself as somebody that wears down later in outings. If you really want to think about it from this macro sense about Edward being a potential trade chip, this is not a moment that is going to endear him to other teams. Like if other teams are trying to see him as a trustworthy starter that goes deep into games, this is somebody that now this season, despite being pretty effective, is averaging 5 innings per start for this entire season. And in several of those cases, it's because he's getting removed in these type of situations instead of pushed beyond what he's accustomed to doing. So this was extremely unpopular in the moment. There was a quote from McCullough post-game about he didn't want people second guessing that decision, but this is one where everybody was first guessing it in real time, both publicly in our own staff chat. This is something that we talk about where in the moment, it was like, this is not going to, regardless of the results here, this is one where I think even the process was flawed in a way that it was really hard to, I think you put it well in your pod that you can't really justify it under all these circumstances. And unfortunately, just a really sour ending there where the team doesn't get the win and the player doesn't get an individual win and all that. Anything to add on this, Carver, beyond what we've mentioned on Edward Cabrera?
I have been the guy's biggest non-believer, and I have had a reason to do that. I said just a few weeks ago that while he's going well and he was on a stretch of like 3 or 4 good starts, that I still need to say more. And, I believe that, and I did, because he had so much going against him rather than just a little bit of a good stretch to believe that. This guy is now at sub 80 pitches, 70 pitches, whatever it was, going into a 6th and 7th inning, and you send him out there, and he allows, as Jeremiah said, just a hard luck infield single, and that's when you decide to take him out. As we just said with Mazer, and I believe this is in a little bit of a different light because Edward's been in the bigs and Mazer hasn't been in the bigs, but there has to be a time where this guy is allowed to build his confidence up. They took that opportunity away from him by pulling him when he's having one of his best starts of the year.
I want to pull this comment from LMF. Thank you, LMF, for always tuning in and subscribing. This is a question we get a lot after Clayton McCullough does something unpopular, is we want to grill him post-game. We want to get the truth out of him. And I mean, unfortunately, that's just not the way that this stuff goes down. You can ask whatever you want to him, and he's going to default to the same thing, saying that and in this case, I think that is one thing I want to hear from you on this, Jeremiah, because you mentioned on Twitter a few hours ago, missing Skip Schumacher, where now Skip, if he's in the same situation, who knows if he makes the exact same move, but in the way that he had a different way of actually addressing his decisions when they actually played out in real time. Like in this case, you get McCullough just being really defiance about the process that went behind the move and that it didn't work out. He leans and he makes excuses when things either makes excuses or oftentimes he just gives credit to the opponent for the way that things play out. Whereas, Skip just had a different aura about him in a way that I think more people enjoyed. If Skip was here in this moment, I think people feel a little bit differently about it. It's a bummer that he's not around, even for a year where just like last year he had a team that was just as talent deficient as this one was. But I think people felt I think try to kind of articulate what the difference is that you've noticed between Skip and McCullough.
Yeah, so with Skip, I tweeted that out because I do think that Skip, top to bottom, is a better overall manager with his in-game decisions and also from a leadership perspective. There's been one time this entire season that I saw Clayton really get animated within the game. I mean, the TV camera will pan to him in the dugout, and it's just the same emotionless response, whatever the situation is. And I understand that can be useful at some points, but when you're in professional sports, you're playing Major League Baseball, these teams aren't going to feel sorry for you. They want to win, and the Marlins should want to win. Skip Schumacher wanted to win more than anybody else. And the post-game comments, I just couldn't believe it because Clayton says, I really liked Cade Gibson out there at that point in time. Well, obviously you did because you went out there and put him in the game. You're not telling me anything. Why? The question is why, Clayton? Why did you make that move? Why won't you let Edward Cabrera compete in the 7th inning? Why is it such a taboo for this organization to attack hitters deep into ball games? And he just doesn't ever answer that question with a direct answer. And that's what with Peter Bendix is the same way. It's one of the reasons that I've criticized certain aspects of Peter Bendix and how he operates. And now with Clayton McCullough, I just want to see some competitive fire. You see some managers that have it and they either have it or they don't. And right now McCullough doesn't. And I mean, these decisions are costing this team games. I know it's not, the Marlins aren't going to be a playoff team. They're not in wild card contention, but these games still matter to the players. They matter to the fan base. You can't just punt away a game because, well, the computer model told me to in the 7th inning. We got a 6% chance with a lefty. No, just go with your gut at one point in time and make a call as the skipper. And they don't do it.
There's so much, in what he doesn't say, there's so much to unpack in terms of, the kind of manager that he is. It's what he doesn't say rather than what he does say. As you said, Jeremiah, I liked Gibson in that spot, 3rd time through with that hitter. I like Gibson. Why did you not like Edward in that spot when he is having one of the best starts of his career in a very long time? Why was he such a bad choice? Why was Gibson the better choice rather than Cabrera? That was the question that was posed to him. It's not why Gibson in that spot. It was why not Edward in that spot. And by answering the Gibson with the focus on Gibson, he straight up doesn't answer the question at all. And it's horrid. And I think this is his worst decision as a manager yet. And he's getting more experience. He's getting to know his players more. Maybe if he made this mistake a month in, you would be like, okay, it's early in the season. He's still getting to know the players. He doesn't want to push the guy too far. We're most of the way through the first half. He's seen this player pitch. He knows that that's the best that he has been. He allowed a weak-ass ground ball on the infield that somehow the guy reached on. And that run wound up costing Edwards the game and the decision, and the Marlins, in a large part of ways, the game, because that tied the game. And then, of course, they lose by a run. So you have a worn-out bullpen. You have a worn-out bullpen. This bullpen has thrown more innings than any other bullpen in Major League Baseball. And you have a starter who is having the best start of his career in a long time, as I just said. So by leaving him in, you accomplish two things. You save your bullpen. That's number one. And you give Edward even more confidence, and you continue him on a very great track. There's such simplicity here, and he overcomplicated, as you can say, like you said, Jeremiah, by probably looking at analytics or getting a call from someone else higher up in the organization that, we got to take him out. Go with what's working. You don't go with what's working. You don't simplify decisions. This is how you get screwed.
Well, also really quick, what you touched on earlier, Carver, that he's your best option at that point in the game. Your bullpen, I mean, let's just call it how it is. You don't have these superstars, flamethrowers coming out of the pen. Cade Gibson, compared to Edward Cabrera in just pure stuff. Cabrera, at the pitch count he's showing no signs of tailing off or losing his stuff. Let him go. There's your weapon right there.
They
Like,
don't even have a
you're
closer.
downgrading.
They don't even have a closer. Like
Right.
They have Fauché and Bender. Like they don't even have a true closer on the team. Like, and you have,
Yep.
like I said, you have a worn out bullpen. This bullpen's thrown the most innings in Major League Baseball because he won't let starters ride, and it's so disturbing. Just like he won't put out the same bullpen more than one game in a row, he won't let starters go when he knows that they're actually working. And it's over management. He's definitely over managing. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, it's just not simplistic. I get analytics. We all know them. We know that maybe the computer model says a different thing, but computers aren't the human factor. So at some point, you have to look at a guy and say, okay, this situation that this guy is in, he's at 80 pitches, 70 pitches, whatever. He's literally building confidence with every pitch that he throws. He wants to be in the game just like Sandy's wanted to be in games. And you still don't let him have that opportunity. It's such a mistake and such a simple mistake to make. I can't get behind it, and I don't think anybody can.
Well, Kevin insisted earlier today that he would not be on stream. I did not believe him. I figured he'd find a way on here somehow, some way. I think he wants to add something quickly on here. So go ahead, Kevin.
Yes, very quick appearance on the stream, but yeah, I mean, you guys said it. Couple things. First of all, terrible decision to take out Cabrera. I think that's been widely known, made no sense at all. But, people talk about you got to grill McCullough, you got to say this, you got to ask that. People start sending questions that they want us to ask McCullough. Guys, for those who are in this world of sports media, Carver's been there for a long time, so has Eli, both who've spoken to Clayton. You get a feel for what these guys do, how these guys talk, what type of responses they give you. Jeremiah also spoke to Clayton, completely forgot about that. He's there for a weekend series. And you got to remember that this guy, I mean, is being prepped to say certain things by this team, and it's very obvious the way he talks. There are certain moments during media scrums or media or post game that it takes him longer to come out because he's being prepped or he's being given certain things to say. Of course, he's going to tell you that Cade Gibson was the best option because that's what they told him to do. Like, come on, that's the first thing I wanted to mention there. Second thing, and I don't disagree with it in certain occasions. I disagree with it obviously because in this case, but the organization wholeheartedly believes that there are times where a reliever will have better stuff than the starter in the third time through. And there's many times where it's very calculated. We saw it with Bayozo against the Dodgers, Sandy against the Rockies. There's times where it's very calculated that a reliever is going to go into games and do it. To mention Max Kepler was a bit too much for me, and no disrespect to Max Kepler because he did hit a home run in this series, but I don't see a reason why Max Kepler should be the name that you mentioned. Like, you don't want Cabrera to face unless there's something we're not seeing there. But yeah, and then Cade, I feel bad for the guy. He went into that game against the Dodgers with Bayozo, had to face Otani, Mookie, and who was it? Freddie Freeman got destroyed. Went in there to face the Phillies again, got destroyed. Went into a high leverage situation against the Padres, threw the wild pitch to get walked off. I feel bad for the guy. He's been good for the most part, but feel bad for him. And then the other thing too is you guys talk about the differences between Clayton and Skip. Skip had a feel for the game. He had a really good feel for the game all the way through. Unfortunately, I just don't think Clayton has that. I don't know how much of that is on him. That could obviously be from higher above in management to where when they want to use certain guys, they probably want to use Cade in high leverage to prove that they could trade this kid or something. But overall, yeah, not a good decision there. Probably, as Carver mentioned, the worst one McCullough's made all season. But I would say don't grill the media that tries to ask the questions. Christina was very clear when she asked, is there some time, she asked it, like, sometimes do you feel like you just have to go off of feel rather than analytics? And then I asked him, like, what do you need to see from a starter to complete the seventh? Deflected both questions. You could listen to it multiple times. My question was completely deflected by Clayton. No other way to say it. But yeah, just wanted to come in and touch on that because I think not only does them taking Cabrera out hurt what happened in that game, but it's overall in the season what we've seen with them doing it with Beozo, Sandy, and just the way they prep the pitchers. I mean, we've spoken about that many times. You know, the way they prepare these guys to not go very deep into outings. And again, Marlins still find themselves as the only team in baseball who have not had a pitcher complete 7 innings of work. And don't expect it tonight. Probably don't expect it tomorrow. Sandy's probably your best shot, and he's noted it already in his last post game. He wants to go 110, 120 pitches in an outing. He wants to go deep into games already. He feels like he's back in the rhythm and in the groove that will allow him to do that. So, solid start against the Phillies. Braves are still a very good team, regardless of the record. I don't think the record speaks for themselves, but yeah, I think we're going to have to see a pitcher at some point go 7 because, as Carver noted, the Marlins bullpen is one of the most used in baseball.
Good. Let's bring in Nate from the ballpark for this series opener, checking in for a rare press box report appearance. Yeah, it's unusual, Nate, that we're this deep into the season, almost halfway through, and this is the first time the Braves are visiting Miami. You got to get used to that with the lesser interdivision play and just the way that things laid out. So, yeah, overall, just give us your thoughts on the Braves at this point in the season. A team that has won this division almost every single year over the last 6-7 years, and then they come in here kind of stumbling, where they're almost as close to the Marlins as they are to the actual wild card teams at this point in the season.
Yeah. First off, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Shout out to my friend Danny Alvarez using headphones. But yeah, man, Braves first time at Lincoln Park this year. It's the end of June. Very surprising, very unusual. They are coming in at the perfect time. 4 days. They just swept the Mets. They are as hot as anything in baseball right now. So it could not have been a less ideal time for the Marlins to face their division rivals. Yeah, you said it, Eli. They started out pretty slow, then they got Ronald Acuna Jr. back, hit a homer in his first at bat, and they've been looking a lot better since. So yeah, hot team. I think we all know the Braves are. No other way to say it except they really own the Marlins as of late. They've owned them really since that old crew of Acuna, all those young guys came in. Also, so it should be a fun time. Basically, the youngest starting pitcher in an MLB game for the first time since Julio Urias in 2016. This guy just turned 20. He's younger than I am, which makes me feel like a 20-year-old kid somehow. So yeah, this should be a fun series.
Yeah, this is that guy, Didier Fuentes. Younger than even Yuri was when Yuri debuted a couple of years ago, and that seemed like a big deal. I think we want to talk a little bit about prospects after you check out here. And he's younger than Thomas White is, for example, a guy that is just reaching AA despite being on fast track. This is really unusual. Actually, Carver, you could probably speak to this a little bit. The Braves have done this quite a few times in recent years, fast tracking guys through their system in a way that the Marlins rarely do. They brought Michael Harris to the big leagues with minimal upper minors experience. They've done it with some of their other young pitchers. When a guy is ready, they're ready with the Braves. That's kind of been somewhat of a difference for them, but it's worked out more times than not with fast tracking these guys.
Yeah, and I think that approach is why their minor league system, like as a whole, right now is like in terms of rankings is one of the worst. Is because they kind of just like if they think a guy's ready now, like it's kind of the Angels too. The Angels did with Shanuel and multiple other, like if they think the guy's ready, they're just going to do it. I mean, it's kind of a novel approach, I would say. For me, you know, when I'm looking at how to evaluate a player, I kind of want to see it on the field first. No matter how mature a guy may be, I kind of want to see results on the field first at some level of the upper minors, whether it be AA or AAA. But the Braves, I guess, in a lot of cases, haven't really cared too much about that. They've kind of seen, hey, if this guy's mature and just proves that he's ready to work and continue to improve at the highest level of Major League Baseball and has that ability within him, then we're going to challenge it. And that's respectable. Like I said, it's a novel approach. I think it is a very aggressive approach because in a lot of ways, you don't really know what you have, especially in terms of how this approach is going, until they get at least to the upper minors, and then even that can change when you get to the majors. So we've seen guys dominate the low minors and then make a very, very, very small impact in Major League Baseball. So that could even go further in the wrong direction in this situation when you have guys that are coming up so young. But you could also pay off for you, and you could have a guy throughout the whole course of his minor league contract or availability for arbitration, and he could just be your dude forever. So that is a novel approach. In some ways, I think it's worked out for the Braves. You mentioned a couple guys. Will it continue to work for them? I guess we'll kind of have to see. It's aggressive, but it's interesting. And again, I think that's why that this system is where it is in terms of depth right now and proven depth right now in terms of minor league rankings. But when they're willing to do things like this, they see things that we don't on a daily basis. Maybe they're ready for it. Hope it works out for them, but we'll see.
Yeah. On the other side of this, Nate, we got Jansen Junk moved into the rotation for the first time. And I'm a fan of it. I'm a believer in what he's done in long relief. But this is going to be a big test for him, goes without saying, with how hot Acuna has been at the top of that lineup, and the fact that this is going to be a rare time where the other team can fully prepare for him instead of somebody else. Is there anything from Clayton pregame on that, or just anything from your end on Junk? I know even I think dating back to spring training, even following his stuff pretty closely. So, what are we expecting here from a guy that 29 years old? He's bounced around quite a bit, and this is he's now has an opportunity to actually prove himself as a starter. And it took a difficult route to get here, but it's now all on him to handle the challenge.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we'll start with Blake because I just got to your tail end of your guys' discussion about last night's decision, which I will add was absolutely bizarre and asinine. That was a pretty terrible decision. But we'll move on from that. He said that they're going to treat Junk like a regular starter, so I guess that's going to mean 80 pitches, and we'll see what happens from there after yesterday. But yeah, it's good to see that they're not really putting a limit on him, a limit as of now pregame. So that should be interesting. But yeah, man, Jansen Junk, I just talked to him before St. Lucie at the beginning of March. Very excited. Had a really good spring, even though he started the season down in Jacksonville. But he said a couple times when I talked to him about a month ago that staff there was really good. They just kept installing in what they told him in spring training. Worked on his off speed a lot. He talked about that sweeper. Made sure to mention it back in Port St. Lucie, and it's been a really good pitch for him that far. Just all his off speed, to be honest. And of course, it's with the power fastball. And yeah, in that same conversation, he talked about his preparation. The bullpen is no different than a starter, even though he knows that he's likely not going to be out there every day, just preparing the same. And it definitely worked out for him. So, yeah, he's given the Marlins plenty of distance. Most of it will be in Anaheim and definitely last week in Washington. But this is a much different lineup from those two, so it's going to be a big test for him. But I'm going to predict he goes around 4 or 5. But of course, the flow that he and whatever the computers say will actually dictate that. But I'm excited for James.
Could see a major league debut tonight. Robinson Pena got called up a couple days ago, and he's somebody that can add bulk if needed, and the starter doesn't go that far. So that will be another guy from our call-up contest that could potentially get on the board here, likely during this weekend, if not during this game in particular. So just some final notes from you at the ballpark. I think you mentioned that Jorge Cantu is there. Have you figured out why he's there? Former Marlin great.
Yeah, I did not. I was not able to get an answer on that, but it's been a lot of former Marlins, a lot of reunions here. You said Cantu, talked to Gabby Sanchez on those 2010, 2011 teams, the first teams I remember watching, so that was pretty cool. And a really cool one between AJ Ramos and Marcelo Zuna, two of the guys from the 2016-17 Marlins. Most notably in that 2016 Home Run Derby, they were fanning off John Carlo with Jose. That was a really awesome moment. That was cool to see those two catch up. And of course, one of my personal favorites, Freddie Gonzalez, is here for the Braves, talking to all the guys. Gabby and all, and just that big group was talking. So really cool to see. And batting practice, this was the first time I actually stuck around and watched the opposing team's batting practice for the first time all season. And it was a light show. They had all their big guys out, Olsen, Riley, Acuna. It was fun. The pregame batting practice experience, I've never seen more red and blue behind that ever. It was flooded with Braves fans. So it was good pregame. Good to see all those guys catch up. Pretty nostalgic, but overall it's been a pretty good time today.
Good. So I think we're going to get Nate out of here on that, follow his coverage of this series opener. And thanks a lot, Nate. Have a good time.
Thank you. Should I do my prediction right now real quick? I didn't get a video, so you want me to just do it now?
Yeah. Give me just one moment to put up the backgrounds and then to get you in the middle. Go right ahead. Oh, wait.
All right.
One moment. Now go.
Alrighty, I got the Braves taking 2 out of 3. This team is hot. They won 6 out of their last 7. Series MVP, I'm going to go with Ronald Acuna Jr. I have a little extra prediction here. First game in rehab, home run. First game back in the bids, home run. And first game against a team that he's owned for the better part of his career. I'm going first pitch, home run off our guy Jansen Junk. I'm sorry, Jansen, but I'm predicting he's going to go around the Budweiser bar. That's my big call this series. But yeah, Atlanta 2 out of 3 and Ronnie MVP.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Nate.
Thank you guys. Take care.
Okay. So, I wanted to check in. We got Carver back in again to go through a couple farm system stories for today because we are just a few minutes away from Thomas White making his AA debut. About the same age as this Fuentes guy, but I think we all consider him a more complete prospect. Basically, a best case scenario with his career to this point, less than 2 years after being drafted, he's now the consensus top prospect in this organization. He was shoving in Beloit this last couple times to earn this promotion. You were aligned with a lot of people, myself included, that thought he may be in Pensacola to begin this season. Instead, it ends up taking him until about the halfway point to get that promotion, and he kind of performed as well as we expected in the meantime. Yeah, so this is an exciting day because the AA level, it's a uptick in competition, certainly compared to what he was facing before then. And but it's a big milestone for Thomas. Yeah, just give us a little briefing on where he's at with his development at this point.
Yeah, just keep going. I mean, since the start of the year, this guy has been a dude. Spring training was amazing. He's hitting 100 miles an hour in spring training. On his first day of spring training, he's hitting 100 miles an hour, which is insane. Just crazy. And then the development, of course, of the breaking stuff, incorporation of sweeper a little bit more. It's just been incredible to see this guy just live up to expectations in every sense of the word. I mean, this is a guy who can go within the zone. It's a guy that can purposely go out of the zone. It's a guy that doesn't need his best stuff to be effective because his stuff is just so damn good. Tall lefty from the left-hand side, high arm angle. It just looks so good. He shortens distance to the plate very, very well. He's smooth in the delivery. He's not herky-jerky at all. I really don't worry too much about injury risk. I really don't even worry too much about reliever risk with this guy just because of how good the stuff is and how advanced it is at this age to make it to AA. As you said, I agree. I think he could have been at AA to start the year. They took it a little easy. That's fine. Maybe they just wanted to build back up a little bit. It's totally cool that he was in single A advanced to start. But this is a big jump for any pitcher, even Thomas, even the number one prospect in the organization, one of the top lefties in all of minor league baseball. I think this is still a big jump. So I am very intrigued to see how his stuff lives up to AA bats. And we're going to see it start now, right in front of us. I'm going to be watching this very, very closely. I think a lot of us will be. I'll be watching this personally closer. Sorry, Miami Marlins, than the Marlins game tonight. Sorry, Jansen. We just had his friend Troy on the podcast, but sorry to them. But I will be all eyes on Thomas White tonight as he makes his AA debut at Blue Wahoo Stadium. This is going to be an exciting day. Just the next step for what we think will be a star-studded ace for this team. And the thing that the Marlins haven't had this year is they haven't had a lot of left-handed pitching, especially rotational starters. They get one here tonight at a lower level, but I don't think it's going to be too long before we see this guy in the Marlins. I'm not ruling out September call-up.
Pretty bold, pretty bold. On a related note, Davison De Los Santos coming back from the IL in AAA Jacksonville. He was out for a little over a month with a groin strain. Jeremiah, he was a big name when it was acquired by the Marlins at the deadline last year. He went on to lead the minors in home runs last season. The hope was that he might be up in the big leagues by now, considering that he was already on the 40-man roster. He was in big league spring training, yada, yada. But where do you stand with your De Los Santos excitement at this point? At the big league level, the Marlins have had some struggles at first base. It's been a lot of Eric Wagaman and not a whole lot of value coming there on offensively or defensively from Wagaman. Matt Mervis, as we know, they gave him an opportunity. He's still around the organization, but kind of flamed out. De Los Santos, now that he's back and healthy at the AAA level, what are you looking to see differently from him? And in terms of where he kind of fits in with the near-term future of this big league team if he performs up to expectations.
Yeah, it's just the strikeout rate, dude. I can't, like, it's just so many strikeouts. It's just so many strikeouts. Maybe he was kind of feeling whatever was going on with him with injury early. I would hope that, but his track record shows an increased K rate all across the board. So I worry about the strikeout rate. I worry about pure pull. These are things that I worry about. Positional inflexibility too. I think with this player, they have him listed as a third baseman. He's not that. He's a first base DH. So I really worry about positional inflexibility and strikeout rate are the two things that I worry about. What I don't worry about is raw power. I don't even really worry about game power because if this guy gets the barrel on the ball, especially to the pull side, he's going to hit a home run. It's just the frequency of contact is just not there right now for Davison. I think he could take it up, but the missed time isn't going to help him. So I think this is what we're looking at, especially with the lengthy absence now, is more of an extended time in AAA. I think he really needs to prove plate coverage. I think he really needs to prove that it's not just full power on a consistent basis. He kind of started to do it a little bit and then fell back. But I really think that this guy needs to figure out AAA pitching first before we can hope to see him in the majors, even though the power is still so elite. It's positional inflexibility. So, like I said, first base DH, and he needs to start to go to more fields and make better swing decisions. So, hopefully, the Shrimp can bring that out of him. We just heard Troy talk really, really well about Mike Margema, the hitting coach. So, I really hope that Margema can get with this guy and keep him healthy. That's on the physical staff, but and the training staff, keep him healthy. Number one. And then number two is to cover the plate a little bit better and make better swing decisions. Because if it's not happening at the AAA level, it's going to be even worse at the major league level. So I'm not ruling out a possible call up this year, but he's going to need to do some things differently.
We were talking, Jeremiah, right before going live about that trade in particular, the way that Andrew Pintar is performing at AAA. And also there was this breaking news just a few minutes ago that AJ Puck is out for the season with elbow surgery in Arizona. That was, of course, the trade where they acquired both of these guys, De Los Santos and Pintar there. So, yeah, the Marlins don't need a whole lot in order to win that trade between these two guys that are now both at AAA, both healthy again. Anything that they get from those guys, I guess, would make the Marlins feel a little bit better about making that deal at the deadline last year.
Yeah, just to touch on what Carver was saying about De Los Santos, I just want to see a better feel for the strike zone. Too often he's swinging at high fastballs that aren't even close to the zone, and then that's where a pitcher can attack with a slider down and in or a breaking ball away. And major league pitchers are going to eat that up, so he's got to cut that down. On the Pintar, we were talking about this earlier. His BABIP is so high, it's starting to come down. He was off to a really hot start. Of course, he's a much better defender than De Los Santos. He's got a ton of speed out there, can play a good center field, can steal a lot of bases. But what I worry about with Pintar in the long run is the swing and miss as well, because he's not he doesn't profile as a power bat. He's not going to hit a ton of home runs like you expect from De Los Santos. And if he's not making enough contact and swing and missing all the time, then, his ceiling will be capped at, a level you really wouldn't want to see. So it's not a bad trade because of the upside. And of course, Puck being injured, the Diamondbacks, they're not reaping the benefits either. But right now, there's still development for both of those big chips in that trade.
Let us get to tonight's lineups, a closer look at what the Marlins have going on for this series opener. A lot of big names in the Braves lineup, as we've come to expect these past couple of years, with their main core that they use the same guys on a pretty consistent basis in there. Starting on the Marlins side, though, Xavier Edwards in the leadoff spot. I want to shout out Heriberto Hernandez. I think we brought him up on a recent stream, and he just continues to hit whenever he's in there. He's even squeezing in there against a righty. I'll bet it's a guy that's making his big league debut, and that lowers the threshold a little bit. But they've, I think everybody has been kind of pleasantly surprised by how serviceable, and even more so than that, he's been in the small sample, hitting in the mid 300s and doing it mostly against lefties. But well, this is another test for him, even with the platoon disadvantage, to see what he can do in there. It's a rare off day for Eric Wagman, Liam Hicks playing first base, which is something that I think a lot of people were clamoring for a few weeks ago. In a small sample, Hicks has not been playing well defensively at first base, but he does have a bit more offensive consistency than Wagman does. So I'll be encouraged I'm happy that he's back in the lineup some way, somehow. Anything else about this one, Jeremiah, that sticks out to you? Because every single game, it's been a different batting order. The streak has continued. There's always something unique to say about this lineup because it's always a little bit different than ones they've used before. But anything about it that sticks out to you or that you're going to be watching closely tonight?
Well, for me, I just want to see Dane hit higher in the lineup. I mean, he's hitting 6, which I'm fine with. That's okay. But I would have flipped him and Otto Lopez. I think Dane's your best offensive player. He's got to be hitting 3rd or 4th. Augustine hitting cleanup, I'm fine with that. Obviously, X at the leadoff spot, he's a prototypical leadoff hitter. I do like Liam Hicks back in the lineup. I want to see him in the lineup as much as possible. I mean, ride out this hot streak. He's been great offensively. Heriberto Hernandez, like you said, against the righty, it's a good test. He's surprised me. I had very low expectations for Hernandez. Just the call-up surprised me in general. And then down towards the bottom of the lineup, Connor Norby hitting 8th. You know, it's been a season kind of mixed results for Norby. The swing decisions just aren't there. He's whiffing a ton. I want to see him clean that up this series in particular. He homered the other day against the Phillies, so you love to see that. Hopefully he can get a nice power streak going. And you know, sitting at the 8th spot, there's a little bit of pressure taken off his shoulders to get going.
Sliding over to the Braves side for this one. When these teams previously met, Acuna was still out recovering from his ACL. Even Sean Murphy was out at the time. He was recovering from a little IL stints early in the season. Otherwise, it's a lot of familiar faces that this team's been leaning on for several years in a row now, between Riley and Olsen and Ozuna and Michael Harris II. And they made that interesting shortstop change early in the year with Nick Allen going in there. But as you see from the blue, he's one of the only guys in here that isn't much of an offensive threat overall. But to me, Acuna's small sample size means that he's not qualified yet, so he doesn't get the color coding. But a 58% hard hit rate is insane. He has that 18% walk rate as well. That is brand new for him. He's only stolen 1 base. The last time we saw him fully healthy, he was having a 40-70 season. And now, even though he's essentially shutting it down as a base runner, he's still making up for it by being a better hitter than ever. In his incredible career to this point, what is on pace to be a legendary Marlins killing career. He is as hot at the plate as he's been really at any point in his career for a sustained period like this. What else stands out to you, Carver, about this group of Braves hitters? Because for whatever reason, the overall results have been mediocre for this team overall, even though it's a lot of guys with great resumes and awesome potential. It just hasn't been translating to as many victories as we're accustomed to seeing from them.
Yeah, definitely a disappointing season so far for this team. I mean, you still have guys doing it. Matt Olson's always good. Austin Riley's always a stud, as Nate kind of alluded to with the BP stuff. Michael Harris, I think that's one of the main disappointments for this team. I thought that guy was a legend. I think that he still could be very good, but just hasn't really been there overall so far for him with the offense. I mean, for him to have a hard hit rate of under 40%, that's kind of tough. We talked about him earlier. Again, it's still a young player. He still has time. But man, it's just hard to see too much going well for him so far lately for the Braves. But it's not something that he can't overcome, because I think that he's still a good player. But hitting 8th, I think that kind of says all you need to say about where the Braves think that he is. He needs to do some restructuring for sure. Acuna's always going to be a stud. He's always going to destroy the Marlins. We can expect that probably again in this series. I don't care how that guy could be hitting 100 and he'll still come out in a series against the Marlins and hit a couple bombs. It's just how that guy goes. So I'm not going to say too much about him. But there's names here. There is a lot of talent here, but I think a lot of it is just underperforming so far on the offensive side. But I would expect this team to bounce back. There's just too much talent for them to stay like this forever.
And then one last look at the probable starters. I threw it up earlier. Junk and Fuentes tonight. This will be start number 3 for Yuri since coming back from TJ. Previously faced the Pirates and then the Nationals. And this will be another uptick in quality of players that he's going up against. I think people probably still remember pretty vividly that the worst start of Yuri's career came against the Braves a couple of years ago in the middle of that on the road against Atlanta, where he didn't get out of the first inning. So I'm sure he'll be seeking some revenge for that. And last thing before we go to prediction time, Jeremiah, just where things stand with Sandy. So this is coming off 3 straight good to great starts. And this, it just continues the trend where he's going up against a more dangerous and deeper lineup than he's faced to this point. But, and you heard his comments previously in his last start that he wants an opportunity to go deeper into a game if he's actually effective. Yeah, I mean, how confident are you in the way that he's been pitching lately? And what do you think that this particular matchup is going to look like for him against Atlanta after seeing what we've seen from him recently?
Yeah, so for Sandy, I just want to see his pitch mix, I think, is really interesting to talk about because there's been a couple starts where he's very dependent on the curveball and the secondaries, and then his next start he'll go fastball, sinker heavy. Against this Braves team, I would rather him, focus on those secondaries because you look at the hard hit rate, you look at how they attack fastballs, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, even Acuna coming back, Acuna's demolishes fastballs. So I want to see Sandy just, work the sinker down, paint it on the corners, but really focus on the changeup, the curveball, the slider, and then, see what he's got because, like you said, this is his fourth start where he has an opportunity to continue progressing. It's not about perfection, but it is about progression. And this is really a prove it start. If you can put a really good one together on Sunday, then you're looking at 4 starts in a row of very good baseball from Sandy Alcantara. And then the agenda's back on. The trade rumors are going to start heating up once again, which is good for the organization. The organization, they're not going to say it openly, but they want to trade Sandy. I think Sandy knows it. Everyone knows it. So it's really a great opportunity, and it's a good opportunity this weekend to get a win. You're facing Bryce Elder, who struggled against the Rockies. He got blown up against Colorado. So Sandy, it's a tough test, but if he can figure it out and he's got it between the ears, then I think he's got a real good chance of going 6 and maybe, just maybe, being the first Marlins pitcher to complete 7 innings.
Yeah, it's wild how the bar has been lowered. But Sandy, it used to be, is this the day that he's going to give another complete game? Is this the day where he's going to finish what he started? And now it's like, maybe, does he have a chance of being the guy that goes 7? Maybe. And even that seems just ridiculous.
Unlikely.
Yeah, because it's out of his hands. Anyway, we've been critical enough about the way that this team handles things, and we've made our opinions known. To size up these next few games, we will go to prediction time.
This is prediction time.
I think we're going to win a lot of games, a lot more games than you think we're going to win this year.
Okay, so this is an updated look at our leaderboard to this point in the season. Our staffers, our super subs, and our live stream guests give us their input. How many games the Marlins are going to win in the series? Who will be the series MVP as determined by win probability added? Last series was, for a lot of people, it was a successful one that had the Phillies winning. I went with a series split, and they came up just a little bit short of that. So I'm still buried very deep on this leaderboard, but still a lot of time to go. More series ahead of us. I think another 27, 28 series left in the season. So a lot of time to make up ground, as my experience has shown in running this the last few years. So we heard from Nate already at the ballpark. Still 17 minutes left if our super subs want to get to our site and leave their predictions over there. Let me just get our background set up once again. And Jeremiah's been on here before. He knows how this works. But I think we're going to start with Alex Carver here as I get this music started. Your predictions, Carver, for this 3-game set.
I like how Jansen Junk has been pitching. I think he's on a hot streak. I like what we've seen a bit from Yuri. He's been up and down. He definitely overthrew in his first start, third start out. I'm liking him to come back and be more of the Yuri that we know and love. Sandy, let's continue to build. Let's continue to go. He's, as was alluded to, pitch mix has been a little weird. So I'm looking for him to have a more steady mix this time out against the Braves lineup that is struggling, as we alluded to. Give me the Marlins 2 out of 3. And I will give it to my guy, this is the dude, Augustin Ramirez, MVP.
Interesting. Jeremiah, your prediction, sir.
There we go. The Braves came off a series sweep against the Mets. They're going to roll into Miami. Ronald Acuna's hitting leadoff. He's going to terrorize the Marlins this series. He's a Marlins killer. Braves sweep the Marlins.
Interesting again on the other side. I'm going to side with Carver and have the Marlins taking 2 out of 3 in this series. This is a Braves team that I still don't fully trust yet, despite the obvious talent advantage that they have right here. And I also think that a lot of it is going to have to do with the Marlins pitching, that the guys they have lined up this weekend, all the potential to give you good outings. And right in the middle with Yuri, I am going to be hopeful that this is going to be the start where he really shoves. It won't be a long outing from him. I think best case scenario, 5 1/3, 5 2/3, more likely just 5 even innings. But I think it could be 5 1/3 scoreless innings from Yuri. His stuff is back, and maybe he lucks out a little bit with the lineup that the Braves put together for that particular game. Give me an unlikely but possible Marlins series win, 2-1 with Yuri as MVP. And I think Saturday will be that Flanagan's Fest or whatever they're calling it in Miami. That is something that is always really hyped up, and that should be a good crowd to enjoy that performance. Alrighty. I need to double check what they call that Flanagan thing, but that is going to be this Saturday, if I remember correctly. So I hope people do show up for that, because that'll be Yuri's first start at home this season since coming back. I forgot about that aspect of it as well. Hope people enjoy that. And thanks everybody for tuning in to this show again. Eli Sussman, Jeremiah Geiger, Alex Carver, a little snippet, sprinkling of Kevin Barral in there, and then Nate Karsner with our press box report. So we will, as usual, have on-site coverage of the series from our reporters. You can follow them on Twitter. You can keep track of all their content on our site, fishonfirst.com. We will be back with another stream on Tuesday, I suppose, with an off day coming up after this weekend. So thanks everybody for the support, and check out our merch at aboutthefans.com. Promo code FOF10 to save 10% on your own shirts and hats and stickers, stuff like that. Enjoy the weekends and go.
Fish on First has partnered with About the Fans to launch a merchandise collection. Rep the FOF logo in more Marlins-inspired apparel. Find it all at aboutthefans.com. Enter coupon code FOF10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. FOF10 for a 10% discount.